I've been putting off setting up this new touch screen for my instrument panel, mainly because of the mounting system. I commented earlier that the mounting system is different to this Dell quick release mount, which you can attach and detach to this metal plate here just by pressing a little push button on there. So that was a bit of a disappointment, and I just, I couldn't face ripping this apart and then finding how difficult it was going to be to mount it. I also thought it was time I tried out the touchscreen to make sure it worked. I bought that second hand and I haven't tried it. It's been 2 weeks or so now since I received that. So I plugged that in just an hour or so ago and set that up on the Air Manager PC, and sure enough that works fine. It's a great screen actually. The touch seems to work. I've not got any experience with touch screens prior to this, so that's going to be fine. There's one blemish on the monitor. This only cost me £150 second hand, and it's absolutely top-notch condition except for one little scrape on the screen there. That doesn't affect the picture at all, it doesn't affect the touch capability, so no problems with that. Now, just looking at the back of this monitor, I took the stand off. It's got an interesting tabletop stand to support the use as a touchscreen, and I thought initially it was going to have the same mounting system as the older monitor. It's not the same, but it is similar. This is the mounting plate that comes with this one, and the stand would attach here. Now the thing I like about this is I'm going to be able to mount it pretty much exactly the same way, in a different position obviously from the old one, and these two prongs really support the weight of the monitor. They latch onto, can you see that? They latch on there and it sits flush with the monitor. Now the only difference here is instead of that push button at the bottom, we've got two screws to go in. Now I'm not going to be able to put those two screws in from behind, but it shouldn't matter. That monitor should just, because it's tilted backwards, it should just hang on those two prongs, and it should be fine. So that's the next challenge. What I haven't measured actually is the depth of this monitor. Let's attempt to do that now, because what we want is for it to be flush with this monitor. Same deal. So that's going to work out great as well. So we're going to have to do minimal work on there. I'm going to take off, next thing I've got to do is take off this panel with the two knobs and a button on. We're going to take off the autopilot and the head-up display panel. So I've got the new screen mounted. That wasn't quite as arduous as I'd expected. It took a little bit of time, but it's there, it's reasonably secure, and it's easily removable. As I suggested, it is just kind of hanging on the support mount, which means it's a lot easier to get off than the other ones. So there's not much else to show until I get this up and running. Got to play with the contrast. That's too high contrast at the moment. The other one's wound down just because it needs to be dimmer than the main. Because of this gloss surface, I'm actually getting reflections from behind as well. I normally fly in fairly subdued lighting, so that's not a problem. And of course we've lost that, I've lost from the current seating position. I'm shy of about 1.5 to 2 inches of the main screen. But I did experiment with that, and we're going to live with that for now. So the next thing to do is get Air Manager up and running on this. I haven't run Air Manager yet. I'm hesitant to do that without backing up my current instrument panels because the resolution of the screen is different. I have a kind of a worry that it's going to mess. Air Manager is one of these applications which, a feature I don't like about it is that it saves things without you asking it to. What I like is your old-fashioned application where you change your settings, you have to then deliberately save the settings, and if you don't like what you've done, or if you have second thoughts, you can just cancel or quit. Air Manager, you can't do that. So for example, if you move a gauge around, it instantly changes the position of that gauge in the stored version of the panel. So anyway, that's it. I'm just going to make sure I've backed up everything before I run Air Manager. Then I've got to upgrade to Air Manager version 3.4 for reasons which I won't say too much about at the moment. So we're back. I've got the screen up and running. We've got Air Manager running. This is still 3.0, I think. I haven't upgraded yet. When I start Air Manager now, it tells me there's a new version 3.4. That's just out of beta, so the next step is going to be to download that. The only issue I had was because when I loaded this panel, because I've got a bigger screen, I couldn't figure out how to resize. I pressed some option and it successfully loaded it onto the new screen, but it's the same size as it was before. There is an option to resize to the 1080p display, but that doesn't seem to do what I expect it to do, so I can't get it any bigger than this without tinkering manually with the gauges. Now I won't do that until I've upgraded, just in case there's any issues with the upgrade. I've just taken off from Bonners Ferry in the Twin Otter, and I'm just going to fly around briefly to check out the touch controls, and particularly the autopilot. I do have the autopilot dangling here by its wires precariously, so I can use that if I want. We're actually on the autopilot at the moment, and if I'm on heading mode, heading hold mode. I don't know if you'll be able to see this past me yet. So we're just going to overfly the airport. So I'm going to descend. I'm going to set an altitude. We're at 7,000 feet. I'll set say 5,000 on the autopilot. I'm not using the altitude alert rotary control because that doesn't work. I mean, it does work, but it doesn't work very conveniently with rotary controls in this version of Air Manager. That's one of the main upgrades for version 3.4, as we'll see. But I've set that up. So we're currently at 5,900 feet. I've set 5,000 on the altitude alert. I'm going to now operate this with touch control. Just press that. So that worked fine. We're going to go on to, what else can we do with that? We can come off autopilot. So we're back on manual control, but we don't want to do that. We want to go back onto autopilot. So that worked fine. There's the airport just coming into view down there. In terms of touch control, that's initially a very good result. You can set the yaw damper. Yep, that worked. We could set the auto feather arm. That's pretty cool. You see, I like that immediately. Just being able to reach for the, I mean, you know, there's no rocket science here, just being able to reach for the control and select it without remembering where it is on my panel. That's what Russ has been saying to me all along with my hardware panels. He's the touchscreen man, so I'll give you that one, Russ. So that's it for now. I'm not going to really go any further with this demo. I'm going to make sure my Air Manager's up to date. I'm going to resize the panel so it fits well, and then I'm going to do a proper video or two. I might review Air Manager. I reviewed Air Manager way back. I did some sort of partial review when Air Manager was relatively new to Flight Sim 10 and prepared. And it's obviously moved on a lot since then, so I'm going to do at least another partial review. I'm probably going to focus on the touchscreen aspects of that, and I'll do that by probably flying the Twin Otter, maybe actually incorporating into that review a review specifically of the Twin Otter payway panels. You remember that my panel's hacked around from the payway panel, but also flying a different aircraft entirely using the touchscreen controls as an alternative to my hardware panel. So that's what's coming up. Look out for that soon.